Welcome to episode 136 of The Wellness Woman. In today's episode, I have a really good friend joining me, Matt Bennett from Raw Intuition. Matt and I discuss the changes in his diet, lifestyle, his inner work, and so much more. It's really a beautiful conversation, and if you are someone that is kind of struggling with how to approach your diet and wondering if what you're doing is fine, wondering if you should feel guilty for being more flexible, this is the conversation for you. Join us on the podcast. Now, before we start, I just really want to give a big shout out to Nama, the J2, our first placement for a wonderful product that I personally affiliate with, and also I'm an ambassador for. The J2 has been my go-to juicer since 2022. Without fail, every week I batch juice with it, and I truly managed to feed myself the best green juices in the morning. I use it with so much more. I even have the attachment for sorbet, which I make amazing ice creams with. So it's a machine that I truly value. Now, if you are looking for a new juicer that is cold pressed, comes with 15 years warranty, and it's amazing and has a team that will guide you through any problems you have or any feedback you have, then the Nama J2 is for you. It's also the C2, which includes the blender, which is as powerful as the most amazing blenders in the industry, such as Vitamix. So you can actually add on more smoothies, creams, soups, sauces. I mean, you can get really creative with the C2. There's also the M1, which makes milks, and the M1 has been a game changer for me because I was spending so much money on carton milk, and now I just make my own. Right, guys, if you want a 10% off on your orders, then I really suggest using my code in the notes, and I want to prompt you that this works for even the accessories. So if you have the J2 and want to get the sorbet attachment, for example, which I'm using a lot this summer to make ice creams, then this is the time to do it. All right, without further ado, let's get into the conversation with my friend Matt. Welcome, Matt. So nice to have you here. Hi, Matt. Welcome back on The Wellness Woman. Well, at the time when you were here, it was the Green Life. It's changed a little bit since. I'm super excited to have you here. It's been a while, but we've been in touch since, so it's nice to catch up. And I think the audience will also enjoy that. How are you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me back on. I'm really excited. I'm good. Yeah, very good. I am still kind of catching up from a lack of sleep over the last probably 10 days, but I'm feeling good and excited to talk to you.
Yeah, excited too. And actually, you have some really cool stuff to share. And I see that you're wearing Chris's cap.
I
For those
am.
of us that are watching on YouTube, Chris
Yes,
Candle,
yes.
Banana Commander.
Yeah, I finally met Chris after like 10 years or more
Oh, wow.
at the Vegan Wellness Retreat last week. And the one thing I forgot to pack on the way there was my Raw Intuition hat. And so I got sunburned. And then the very last day, I found out Chris was selling hats. So I wish I would have got it the first day, but I got it the last day. But I'm really glad. It actually fits way better than my Raw Intuition hat, so I might have to switch companies that I make my
You,
merch with.
you might have to come
Yeah,
to Europe, really.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an
I think
option
he
too.
he does them here, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's awesome. Oh my God, I can't believe it because in this
Mhm.
environment, like we all kind of know each other, but I think we forget that we know each other only online because it feels like when we talk and we are so aligned that we actually know each other for a long time, like we're friends.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It honestly, it was like I had met him 100 times before, so it wasn't like I was meeting him for the first time. Same with Nate, Lissa, so many other people that were there that I've known for so long. So, yeah, it was great.
I
Hmm.
think let's just tell the audience before everybody gets lost in translation here. But
Sure.
so we're talking about the Vegan Wellness Retreat, which is an event that happens once a year. And you only go to the one in Michigan, right? You don't go to the one in Texas?
Currently, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe in a few years I'll start going to the Texas one, but right now just Michigan.
Okay. And I'd love to talk about the experience a little bit after, but the reason I invited you on is because I think when we've been talking quite a bit, and I also saw that you spoke to Dr. Karen and Dina,
Yep.
and she was asking you, I think she was the one doing the interview. she was asking you about your, your lifestyle. Like you actually were pretty raw for a very long time. And
Mhm.
sad, like with the changes in your private life, having a child and so on, you kind of switch things a little bit around. I can relate to that, except for the child, but I can relate to the fact that I never was fully raw, like consistently. Like I eat, there
Mhm.
are days that I just eat raw and I love it and there's no problem for me. Like it can go for months actually. But I do like to not be completely strict with myself.
Sure.
Mostly because I have a tendency to be too strict, but also because I love tofu, as everybody that follows me knows. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys, I am not giving up tofu. I
It's
spoke to
good. It's
Dr.
good.
Graham. Yeah, Dr. Graham was like, I remember tofu, kind of implying that I shouldn't have it. Same with Dr. Morse. And I'm like, listen, guys, I'm not going to give up tofu, so get off my back.
Yeah.
But I'm doing everything else raw. So, yeah, so I'd love to know your journey a little bit for people. First of all, if you can just give me a little bit of background about you for people that haven't listened to the first episode, although I will put it in the show notes, but also
Okay.
how things have transformed for you in the last few years since you spoke.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to share. So, for those that don't know, so my name is Matt Bennett, as you mentioned, and I got into this lifestyle, the raw vegan lifestyle. I went from standard American basically right into raw. So, I never like transitioned to vegan and then to raw. Um, so, I grew up standard American, diet, lifestyle, and standard American health issues as well. So I grew up with asthma, eczema, constant colds and flus, sleep issues, excess weight a little bit. I was never like really overweight, but I would kind of fluctuate back and forth. Um, and let's see, skin issues were another thing. So a lot of issues going on, and asthma was probably the most asthma and eczema, but asthma for sure was the most. It had the most impact on my quality of life, and so yeah, basically, ate plenty of meat and dairy growing up, processed foods, but still a lot of whole, home cooked meals. My mom would make home cooked meals quite a bit, but still coming out of like a package or a bag and stuff like that. So yeah, as I got older, I actually the thing that really pushed me into this lifestyle unknowingly was I started to lose my hair when I was about 16 or 17 years old. And my hair was like very tightly tied to my identity. The girls, I would like to like mess up my hair. I would style my hair. I love styling my hair, and the girls would love to mess it up. And so I kind of felt like that was like why girls liked me or something. So it was kind of tied to my identity. So when I started losing that, I was devastated, and it was really it consumed almost my entire mental space for like several years. And so I even did a hair transplant when I was 21 years old, trying to stop the hair loss. Didn't really work, but it was a good learning opportunity for me now that I look back. And it just, now, so when I was 24, I came across a radio program that was talking about juicing. And actually, okay, sorry. When I was losing my hair, I started Google searching how to stop hair loss, and one of the things that came up was eating more spinach. It also said like eating more steak and eggs and fish and things, but
Protein.
I was already eating a lot of those things. So I was like, all right, well, I don't eat a lot of spinach, and so I started eating more spinach. I started making these big salads that also had the same chicken and cheese and ranch and all that. But yeah, the vegetables were definitely increased in my diet from that. And so I made massive salads for dinner, like 3 or 4 times a week, pretty consistently. And so then, flash forward to when I was 24, I came across a juicing program online or on an internet radio program, and it talked about the benefits of juicing. I had actually just received a juicer from my brother that he wasn't using. It was an old Jack LaLanne centrifugal juicer. And so I just went to the grocery store, got some fruits and vegetables, and, for whatever reason, it seemed like it just really called to me. And so I was going to do a weekend juice fast. But I felt so good at the end of the weekend, I just kept going. And I ended up going 10 days, lost weight, had way more energy. I was sleeping way better. My skin looked better. So many things. Oh, and actually, my wheezing chest had significantly reduced. So my asthma was really it was impacted by that as well. But one of the big things that I noticed that were just like, it was like really just eye-opening to me was that it gave me this awareness of my toxic thinking patterns and kind of the way that I was talking to myself internally, and just kind of my view of who I was. And so just having that like sudden widening of my awareness just really caught my attention. And so I decided I would just look more into plant-based diets and plant-based nutrition and the power of plant foods. And so I just started watching documentaries, reading a lot of books, and just researching constantly. And over the next like 8 months or so, that's how I transitioned into raw. I just continued to include more and more raw plant foods until that's basically all I was eating. And I did that for well over 10 years, or a little over 10 years, like maybe 10 and a half years. So there, for those first 10 or so years, I was, I would say probably 95 to 98% raw. And probably closer to 98. I was pretty honed in on the raw. So,
Sorry, what
as you mentioned,
what were you eating that was not raw, generally?
Sweet potatoes. Trying to think. It was mostly sweet potatoes, and maybe like at a holiday, my mom would make something like a lentil loaf or something, and I would have some of that. But actually, the heavier things like lentil loaf, really, because I wasn't eating any sort of like heavy cooked food at the time, I would really notice in my digestion. Like I ate the lentil loaf, and it kind of debilitated me for like a full day. But like potatoes and things like that I would just add it to my salad and other steamed vegetables. So carrots and broccoli and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, as you mentioned, I became a father 4 years ago, and so that honestly that shifted my perspective on how I promote this lifestyle completely, because before I was a parent, I could go to the grocery store, and this is going to be different for everybody, of course. So I'm just sharing my own personal experience and what I have realized for myself, and coaching people for the last several years. I know other people have a similar experience, so that's why I'm changing the way that I kind of promote the lifestyle a little bit. But yeah, when I was not a parent, I could go to the grocery store anytime I wanted. I had way more flexibility with my time, with my energy, and so I could always make sure I had enough ripe fruit in the house. I had a good rotation going. I could always go restock when I needed to. But then, as a parent, it takes me about like 10 or 15 minutes to get to the grocery store, and I basically I'm only able to get to the grocery store a very limited amount of times, like once a week basically is what I was doing for years. I can go a little bit more now, but and so it just it's very difficult to be raw if you can only go to the grocery store once a week, and make sure you have enough ripe fruit and enough greens, and everything that you need. And so it just wasn't practical for me, as a parent. And so I started including like oatmeal and more lentils and beans and a little bit of rice and tofu, and things like this. So I've just used that to help me stretch my raw diet, or my raw food that I get once a week now at the store, so that it lasts, when I can only go once every 7 days. So if I wasn't doing that, my our food would run out within a couple days. Our fruit, the fruit would for sure be out. So yeah, so I've just used whole whole cooked plant foods in addition to my raw diet. So now I don't know what the percentage is, because it fluctuates a little bit, but 75+% raw, and then I have those other things to help kind of just balance everything out and allow me to not have to go to the grocery store constantly and things like that. So.
And your son eats like you, or is he mostly just cooked vegan?
No, he eats. So one of the staples in both of our diets is the smoothie. So we have a smoothie every single day, and so that has changed. So now I add a lot of beans to our smoothie, because I want him to I just want to make sure he's getting enough, protein and calories and nutrients for his growing body, and so I do like 2 cups of beans in the Vitamix, or in the blender. And then on top of that, there's some dates. There's a lot of greens, a couple of handfuls of greens. And then I'll do like chia seeds and then basically berries, and sometimes other steamed vegetables as well, like even like steamed carrots or steamed broccoli, which sounds, to me, it would sound crazy before I started doing this, but it actually digests very well, and I just like knowing that I can get all of that into his body, and he loves the smoothies, so he'll just gulp it down. And then there's a lot of berries and frozen fruits. So that's kind of how and then actually now instead of doing just water, which I've always done, now I do oat milk that I just make myself. I just blend up. I do a cup of oats and 4 cups of water, blend that up, and then use that as the liquid for the smoothie. So it's really calorie dense and just full of, a lot of different nutrients. And so that is like a staple in both of our diets. So his mom actually feeds him a little bit differently than I do, but for the most part, he's plant-based, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So.
Okay. Well, at least he has you as an example. And I hope that even though it's different with his mom, and maybe it's some animal products, I hope that it's not processed junk food. That's
Yeah.
at least, right? If he can
Sure.
keep it at least whole food, I think he can grow up with that mentality, because we know children, they really get their taste since childhood, and their microbiome is adapted to what they're used to. So in order to keep them from wanting things that are not good for them long term, it's really about at home making sure that we feed those bugs, right? That we feed the right bugs.
Yeah.
So that is extremely important. And unfortunately, because we're not educated in school about things like nutrition, and people seem to get their education from online influencers, it is tough, right? So
Yep.
yeah, I can imagine. But you do have a very busy lifestyle. I know for people that don't know you, they probably just know you as Raw Intuition, but they probably don't appreciate that you actually also have a full-time job on top of your coaching, writing books, your shows that you do on Sundays. So it is a very full schedule. Like we had to schedule this about 3-4 weeks in advance even, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very difficult for me to focus on my online, work anymore. It's getting better now, but for like the last 3.5 years, it's just I've been way more absent on Raw Intuition than I would like. But it's just a phase, parenting. I just had to put all my attention into that, and so yeah, now now that he's getting a little older, it's easier to get a little extra time, but still, it'll probably be a little bit longer before I can really focus on a lot of my projects that I had been working on.
Yeah. And in terms of overall nutrition for him, how do you balance out his needs for calories
Hmm.
with fats? Because of course, and taking aside how his mom feeds him, let's just talk about when he's with you, and let's assume
Sure.
that that was his diet for families that are maybe looking at how their children should eat. Because we know obviously plants are very low in calories, so a lot of parents are concerned, and so they start adding things like oil and more nuts and more seeds. But then
Hmm.
there could be people that are following the 80-10-10, and I think we have to, this is one of the nuisance conversation, I think, when it comes to
Yeah.
any lifestyle. A lot of them are created for adults. Adults have gone through their journey already, and and perhaps they might have done it wrong for a long time and they're looking for this health kick, and they're looking to get better at eating better, eating more nutrients, more fiber,
Hmm.
maybe, and the necessity to decrease the fats actually is there. Now I know daily 1010 is obviously fathered by Dr. Graham, who we
Hmm.
mentioned at the beginning of the course. But when we look also at people like Dr. Morse, who we both have studied with, he has is all about fruitarian. Now I know he's not a full fruitarian, and I think it's good to actually tell people his protocols are for healing, especially
Hmm.
nervous
Hmm.
system issues, on top of everything else, but like they are for healing. So a lot of people will actually try to discredit him by saying, oh, nobody should eat like this, only like this. I agree that actually, to be honest with you, that I don't think a fruitarian solo diet is the best for performance in any case,
Hmm.
like for health or
Hmm.
performance. I think
Yeah.
vegetables are incredibly important, but fruit is very electric. So if you are trying to rebuild your body, that is actually a great protocol to do it together with
Hmm.
the herbs, and like actually. So I think that because that's the branding of Dr. Morse, I think a lot of us that are following him maybe are like placed in a box or think we promote that lifestyle, but I think we both actually agree that there is much more to that. It's not as simple
Oh yeah.
as just eat the fruit. And in fact, I mean, I don't know, a lot of people use there are some examples of successful fruitarians, but a lot of them they are not doing it successfully, as a
Hmm.
lifestyle, not to heal.
Right.
So to me, there is a difference between protocol. As a naturopath, and I like to look at science, and like to me, there is not enough, like not enough evidence that shows that just eating fruit would be ideal for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I, as much as I love fruit, I also have
Right.
noticed with women, like with our hormones, I honestly think that as we get older and we get more insulin resistance, just having fruit sometimes just doesn't really support us. And that's why
Hmm.
greens are so important. But for a child, going back to the childhood, and I know we have plant-based juniors, which are amazing. Those are two actually dietitians who have come
Hmm.
together because they raise a family fully plant-based. We know Erin and Dusty from Eat Move Rest are fully plant-based. It can be done in the most amazing way.
Hmm.
But I also wonder how you kind of balanced out this knowledge that we have from our, the people we learned from, and then applying it to your child so that to give him enough calories, you're not going to end up giving him too much fat, because that's also the issue with a lot of us. We have too much fat in our diet.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And honestly, for him, I don't worry about giving him too much fat. I don't really, for a growing child, I don't know that, you know, I mean, I'm sure you can, but I do load a lot. I get fat in almost every meal that he consumes, besides when he eats just like some watermelon or some other fruits. Like he loves fruit, he'll eat fruit any day, all day if he could. But yeah, that the smoothies and any fruit are like things I know for sure that if I offer it, he'll give it or he'll eat it. So, but yeah, I'll put like, and that's actually, I actually started gaining more weight just because I don't really. I don't really want to make more than one smoothie at a time, and so I put everything that he's going to have in his. I just make a big one for all of us and split it up. But actually, I changed doing that after I started gaining a little too much weight from too much fat in our smoothies, and so now I still do the chia seeds when it's for both of us, and then I'll pour mine, and then I'll put actually more fat. I'll put some walnuts or hemp seeds or something additionally in there, because I just want to make sure he's getting enough food or enough calories and enough fat for his development. And so so I have used oil actually with him, just to get him some extra calories. So olive oil is what I would use, and I make him. So I'll make him lentil muffins and bean burgers and yeah, things like that, So I'll make him very calorie dense, and there's not a lot of fat in like the muffins, although I do put. Sometimes I will use like vegan chocolate chips in there, which he loves, but that's like for me, that's like as processed as I get, other than maybe tofu. Like I'll put tofu in there as well. Not that tofu's like extremely processed, but compared to everything else that we have. Like, the chocolate chips are definitely the most processed thing that I can think of right now that I give him, and that's just in the muffins every once in a while. So, but yeah, I mean, I've used oil. I put a lot of nuts and seeds in the things that he eats, like the muffins and the smoothies. And yeah, beans have been a staple. Actually, I added the beans before I wasn't doing a lot of beans, and adding more beans, I've actually seen an improvement in his, his body weight and things like that. So I think, I'm definitely not a raw is law type of person. I never have been for the entire time that I've been in this lifestyle, but especially as a parent, it's really just shown me like that having some healthy cooked foods in there can be very beneficial, And one of the things that I have just personally noticed over, the more than 15 years that I've been living this way is that, a lot of the people, and this is why I don't say, I definitely don't follow the raw is law mindset, but I don't even, like, with my coaching clients, especially now, I encourage kind of what Chef AJ encourages, which is follow the least restrictive diet that gets you the health and the results that you're looking for. I just personally, from my own observation and research, haven't found any evidence, none, that a fully raw diet gives better outcomes than just like a healthy whole food plant-based diet. I honestly don't believe in dietary perfection anymore. Like I think it's a mindset that leads people down a less than ideal path. And really, I focus more, even though diet is always going to be, an extremely important aspect of what I teach, but inner health, inner emotional connection, trauma healing, somatic work, just emotional coherence, I think, is one of the most important aspects to longevity and health span. Way more. I don't. It's hard to describe the level of priority for these things, but like for instance, my great grandparents lived to 99 and 96, I think. 99 for sure for my great grandpa, and they were not vegan, they were not raw. They were farmers, and most of the people that I know that like, another grandparent of mine, I think he was 93 or so,
Wow.
and he was a farmer as well. And so, really, I believe that it was their, one, they were very active, but also they had purpose. They had, a reason for living. They had very good family connection, good social circles, and that is what and I haven't seen any, natural hygienist or strict raw foodist even come close to that. Even the ones that are eating, even ones that have had their own fruit orchards and they were growing all their food how, we would all think is perfect. And they were eating mostly fruit, and they did not even come close to what my grandparents achieved with their health and lifespan. And I know you can't really just extrapolate that one example to say anything, but I would expect, just my own personal opinion is that we should have at least one, right? Of all the people that have been natural hygienists or strict raw foodist, the oldest one that I'm aware of, well, Dr. Fred Bishi, I guess, is the oldest one. So he's a good example. But besides that, he's not a natural hygienist though. Besides that,
He was for a while. Or he was educated in it, I think.
yeah, maybe at some point. But
But it's been raw for a long time.
oh yes, yeah, he's been raw. I think more than 50 years.
Okay.
So maybe more than that. Yeah, he's one. So I think he's 96 now or so,
Yeah.
97 maybe. So again, I'm not saying you can't, that you're not gonna have a long health and lifespan eating it all raw. But so besides Dr. Bishi, I guess he would be one, but he's not high fruit either. He's way more greens, sprouts, and things like that, vegetables. He loves fruit too, but not as much as what natural hygiene promotes, for the most part. And so, besides Dr. Bishi, for natural hygiene, anyways, Herbert Shelton, I believe, is the longest lived that I'm aware of, and he was 89. And so
Whitmore maybe as well, right? How long?
yeah, that's hard because she
was
was
having
more
sprouts.
greens and sprouts,
Yeah,
and
I'm sure she wasn't a fruitarian.
yeah, and it's hard because she died in a fire, so we don't even know how long she would have lived. I love Dr. Ann Wigmore. Like I love the information she gives, the teachings. Yeah. So again, like I'm not here to say all raw diets are bad or like they're not going to give anybody good results, but I'm just saying there's more evidence to suggest that just a whole food plant-based diet is sufficient. I mean, I can count 5 to 10 whole food plant-based. I mean, some of them aren't even vegan. Dr. Schorfenberg, I guess, he's like 103, and I thought he was vegan, but Chef AJ in a interview or a video that I saw just a while ago, I guess he still like has milk and maybe eggs or something. So, but he's like predominantly whole food plant-based. So, at least
I mean, we
my
know that
understanding.
from the blue zones, right? I mean,
Yeah, the
Outlook
blue
is
zones.
vegan.
Exactly,
Aside from
exactly.
Okinawa is pretty much what's closest to vegan
Yes.
because they have very little fish. But then
Yep,
the rest of
yep.
the blue zones actually they have other animal products, but just in very moderate amounts, and they focus on beans actually and grains
Yeah, right.
and healthy fats from nuts and seeds. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when you
So,
look at it,
yes, exactly. So that's just my reason for not really promoting 100% raw diets because for the vast majority of people, there's very few people that find eating a fully raw diet to be easy, like to be sustainable. And so I want to help people live their life where their diet doesn't completely control their life. And, obviously I'm always going to be vegan. There's going to be an emphasis on raw because I do believe raw is very
Okay.
beneficial,
Yeah.
but all raw, I think, gets people into trouble because it's not practical for most people. It's not sustainable. And so if it's not practical or sustainable or easy to do, people aren't going to, it's just not going to lead people
They're not
to
gonna stick to it
success with,
either.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
it's very
And then
stressful for people.
yeah.
So yeah, I promote just a rational, in my mind, a rational, like whole food plant based diet centered around raw fruits and vegetables, but giving yourself the flexibility to have rice, beans, potatoes, things, and really focusing more once you get your diet down to and again I promote people do whatever works best for them, so I'm not saying to do it exactly a certain way. I'm just saying get to a point where you feel that it's easy to sustain the type of diet that you're living, however much raw that is you decide, and just keep focus on whole foods, plant-based diets, and then really where most people fail to really give attention is their inner emotional lives and really focusing on connecting with your emotions and your social life community, like just being at the vegan wellness retreat. Every time I go there, so I've gone there twice now, and it just reminds me of the importance of connecting with people that you feel emotionally safe around, that you feel accepted, you feel respected, you feel valued. You have a connection with people that make you just feel joy, and having that I think is so important. That I mean, especially now with everything being online, it's harder to get that, especially because most people don't have a lot of connections in their local area that think like they do if you're in this lifestyle. So, yeah, I just think going to retreats if you can, or even starting your own meetup could be an option.
If you have the
It
people to
is,
meet up.
yeah, yeah, I know. It is interesting though, like you might be surprised at how many people actually do or are interested in the way that this lifestyle anyways, that you wouldn't ever think of. So if you like put out an advertisement for a meetup, you might find people that are actually into this that you never would have known about, and you might think that nobody in your area is into this lifestyle, but really they just don't know how to find you. So
I might have to try this. Although, from my observation here in Portugal, a lot of people,
yeah.
there are many vegans, which is good.
Okay.
And many of them like to be macrobiotic,
Hmm.
which to me, I like certain things out of it actually. In the summer they do a lot of raw things because it's
Sure.
salads and that's great. But I
Yeah.
think they overcook their food. I mean, there's cooked and then there's overcooked. I
Yes.
think it's just too much grains and too much pulses. Again,
Uh-huh.
because they don't really think about who is eating it. It's just egg is for everybody, and that kind of global universal approach never works, as we know.
Yep.
But at least it's vegan, and at least a lot of people are vegan.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like and like I yeah I find being raw very easy because I have that flexibility when I know, like for example, if I go eat at my favorite restaurant in Porto, which I mentioned a lot in my social media, Gao, a lot of the things, even on the salad bar, is not going to be raw.
Hmm.
But I love the atmosphere in that restaurant. I love the owner slash the chef, her wife, their friend that works with them in the kitchen. They cook with be like they have that special ingredient which is love for sure because the
Hmm.
food. I mean, a carrot is a carrot, you would think, but like but they make carrots that are just like these things out of this world. Like, it's just a carrot salad, but I cannot tell you how wonderful. Like their food is just infused with that extra, and I would not want to miss out on that experience. Now, would I do it all the time? Probably not, because of course it's got oil. I don't need oil. It's got, it's cooked, and I actually feel better when I eat raw. I don't feel as
Mm.
sluggish when I have cooked
Yeah.
food. I do feel more sleepy. So I recognize my cues and I can work with them. But for another thing, like, okay, I say tofu all the time, but like, for example, I love aubergines, right? Eggplants.
Mm. Mm.
And I mean, you can't really have them raw. No, you can't at all have them
You're
raw.
right.
They're just disgusting.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't. You can't have them raw. You can dehydrate them.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, like, I don't have enough time where I have like the whole setup to even dehydrate sometimes. So if I go to the farm, and I'll just, I'll bake an aubergine and eat it because I just love it so much. I grew up with my grandmother making them for them. Like, for me, that's
Hmm.
like emotional food, and
Yeah.
as well as just food that I like. And so I think we need to be just compassionate. And you're right. I mean, again, there are people that can do it perfectly. Like, fully raw Christina, I think she does raw amazing. Like, I
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
how she approaches it. She has been losing weight because of what's happening in her private life. So I have seen some
Yeah.
people being just horrible online. I'm like, if you actually took the time to learn what's happening, she will see, like, anybody will lose weight through that. Like, the same happened to me last year, and I
Sure.
still haven't managed to pick it up. So, but we eat a lot, and she does it really, really well. She's committed to it. She looks great
Hmm.
for, honestly, outside this time that she's going through.
Hmm.
Um, I think some people can do it really well, but you're right. If we are trying to change people's health, we cannot be too strict with them and dogmatic, because
Hmm.
the human nature is not to approach that very well, not to do it very well. And so, as you said, like, the first thing is like, make it fun. Again, going back to, we are being flexible for us means actually we can socialize, which is nice as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, sorry, I don't eat, I mean, I already am like, sorry, I don't eat meat, and that I will never compromise on, and never animal products. Like, I'm an actual vegan. I'm not just
Yeah.
plant-based.
Same.
But yeah, but I want to be able to, like, to not be always like, sorry, I can't come to the vegan restaurant because everything is cooked. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. I mean, I'm gonna be lynched. Like, nobody's gonna talk to me.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm like, okay, let's be flexible here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go back. And so community is super important. I will try that meetup actually as an experiment now that you say it.
Yeah.
But let's go back to what you're saying about the vegan retreat,
Hmm.
because again, wellness retreat, because I obviously followed it online. Actually, I really enjoyed it this year. It was the first year I even heard about it because of you.
Mm.
And what I loved is I was following it, and a lot of the people that we both know were there. And
Hmm.
so I could see everybody's points of view, and like taking the photos and taking the videos. I love the videos. And how much fun. And what I've noticed is people just really came together, and like everybody was just in a good mood, smiling. Nobody was
Mm.
pooped out. The food was unbelievable. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, right now the Dutch Fruit Fest is happening. It's much
Right.
smaller scale. So of
Yes.
course, you're not going to expect that grander. Like, I think Sarah, and it was, what's her husband's
Chase.
name? Chase. I think
Yep.
they did a really, really good job at creating this. Like,
Oh.
it's an undertaking,
Yes.
So definitely amazing. Um, and of course, in the Netherlands, Wendy is actually doing it. She's doing it really great, but she can
Yeah.
only do a small. You can see how this has to grow.
Yeah.
Um, but even then, you can see everybody coming together and really having purpose. And of course,
Yeah.
I love Dr. Graham. Like, he was in the US last week, even Chris, and now they were in the Netherlands. He's coming. He's
Yeah.
going to another one in Austria, I think. Then his guy is going to the UK one. Then he's coming to, well, it's competing still for weightlifting.
Yeah.
Then he's coming to Portugal. And I think he's got one in Spain as well in June. He's got a retreat, an actual retreat. And then he told me
Okay.
about Costa Rica, Bali. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like ping pong, you
Yeah.
know. So, I mean, he's actually a successful raw. He's
He
like, well,
absolutely
so
is.
much energy.
Yes, yes, he absolutely
Yeah.
is. He's very inspiring. I love getting to talk to him and just see him doing his thing at the retreat. That was another highlight for me. Was last year I got to meet him, and then this year again as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean he's a great example as well. I mean, you can't argue with that. But it's just most people just that I've worked with. I'm just saying, like it's
Hmm.
so difficult for them to make that work. So that's why I just say whatever level of raw you can do,
Yep.
that's what you go with that you can sustain long term. So
Yeah.
he can sustain fully raw.
Yeah.
You know, he's been doing it for over 50 years too, I think. So
And I think it's worth mentioning his whole family is as well. So he's got his wife, his
yeah,
child, and so there's nobody at home giving resistance. Because I
that's
think a
true.
lot of for our clients, a lot of that is especially if they come and they live with their family,
Hmm.
um, for them that's actually the bigger thing. It's sometimes even bigger than the socializing. For them is like at home, I'm the one cooking or preparing the
Hmm.
food. I would have to prepare something completely separate for me, and then they would have to be cooked for. And
Yeah.
it's just in this day and age where like time is such a commodity, I think it's really, we can appreciate that that's really not obtainable for a lot of people. I mean, even
Right.
Jillian, right? Jillian
Hmm.
Berry,
Barry. Yep.
she's fully raw, but her family's not. And actually, when
Hmm.
you listen to her, her daughter really loves cooking. She's like a little chef, right?
Yeah.
So she
Yeah.
has really embodied that role of, she prepares a lot of the food, which helps her because imagine if Jillian had to run this business online, she does really
Hmm.
well. Plus, she
Hmm.
had to eat raw for herself, and then she had to cook for for everybody else all the time. I think it would take a toll on her, you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
so and I think that's really one of the biggest resistances for people is like, I home, I just don't have the support. If you
Hmm.
do, that is amazing. And I
Yeah.
mean, again, hats off to Christina, only because, not only, but also because when she started, nobody was supporting her and she's really headstrong and she did it anyway.
Yeah.
But that's not the usual person. Like that kind of grit, that's like, I'm like that because I'm like, so you do you, I'm doing me.
Yeah.
But
Right.
most people can't. Like the pressure is a lot. And
Hmm.
but I think the foundations are important. So you and I think, are really on that place where when we work with people, just like we do with our families, it's like, okay, why don't we teach them to eat more plants? Part of it being raw, because we know it's good. I mean, even in the book Becoming Raw by Brenda Davis, who I have a beautiful show with now, um, she talks about it and she's done all the reviews of all the evidence, when even actually having cooked food for certain things, it's actually better, like lycopene is more absorbed when it's heated. So
Sure.
for men, it's better to have cooked tomatoes than raw tomatoes for the prostate, right? So
Sure.
we want to be able to be that flexible to like achieve health and still acknowledge how wonderful it is to eat a very high raw diet if you can, if you don't want to do fully raw.
Hmm.
But in that actually feeds the internal as well because we already
Yeah.
have so much judgment for ourselves. And if we don't do things, especially for those of us who are A-type personalities, if we don't do something perfect, then we feel guilty. That guilt is as bad as eating a McDonald's, in my opinion,
Yeah.
you know?
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Stress, shame, guilt, all these things
Yeah.
are toxic. You know, if you don't process them correctly, you know, they have a benefit in the short term,
Yeah.
but long term, if you don't process that correctly and you hold on to that, yeah, it can even if you're eating the perfect diet, if you're holding on to resentment, stress, guilt, shame, all these things can just tank your health. So,
Yeah.
you know, so it's really important. The emotional side of it, I think, is extremely important to pair up with a healthy diet.
Absolutely. And I
Mm-hmm.
also think you work with a lot of vibrations. I mean, that, these emotions hold vibrations, and
Mm-hmm.
even we don't realize, but actually our cells are listening to those messages. So we can change
Yeah,
our DNA through these emotions.
yeah,
But you also work with vibrations. I've seen your beautiful bowls that you had at the retreat as well. And you obviously do some videos online, which are lovely. The sound is amazing. And this is all about frequency and vibration that I think
mm-hmm.
it's so soothing. I mean, you should definitely do some online classes for people because
Mm,
you could make a nice group and like an income for it to just have, because even the sound comes in really, really nicely from the computer anyway,
sure.
especially with headsets. And
Yes, yes.
it is. just so soothing to sit there and like feeling those vibrations. When did you get into that? Because I think it's really nicely connected to the lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in it for years, but I didn't start doing it myself until after last year's vegan wellness retreat. Because I saw, they had sound baths there, and I actually never even went to one, but I would walk by them and just hearing them, yeah, I was just like so intrigued. Even more so because I had, passively I had kind of looked at it online over the last few years, but yeah, once I heard it there in person, which I agree it's great even just listening through the computer, but if you can get to one in person, like it's special. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I after the retreat, I was actually talking to Nate Maris, and he has some as well, and he was like, "Yeah, man, you got to get some." So I was like, "All right." So I got some as well, and I'm so glad I did because they're fun to play, and it's so soothing. Even just a few minutes here and there, like I've got some Tibetan or
And balls.
Himalayan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I
Bowl.
have
They're
actually. That's what I
okay.
have. I don't have the
Yep.
crystal ones, but the crystal.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I feel like so. I use the Tibetan or the Himalayan bowls for when I'm getting ready to sleep, and I use them right before bed. And then I use the crystal bowls more for like just like a meditation type thing, right? And so with it makes a big difference for my like for how I fall asleep when I use the bowls, the Himalayan ones. I love it, and it's just yeah. I think it's something people don't realize is it's so beneficial for the nervous system, and so many people have dysregulated nervous systems and they don't even know it. And that's why they give into cravings. That's why they're impulsive. That's why they struggle with self sabotage. Because their nervous system is so dysregulated, they're just looking to find something to bring them back into regulation, even if they don't realize it. And so that's why they choose the cookies and the cake and that sort of stuff, because it just temporarily helps them, feel a little bit more regulated. Even though long term, it kind of just perpetuates the dysregulation. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I got into it just right after the retreat, and they invited me to. So I posted like my first couple sound baths, like just practicing. And Sarah noticed my videos, and she reached out and asked if I wanted to do sound baths at this year's retreat. And I immediately said yes, even though I was like, I mean, I'm brand new at this. So, but I for the few videos that I did put out, and they were like literally my first couple sound baths that I've ever done. I got so much feedback saying like, "Oh, you're really good at that. Like I've listened to a lot of sound baths, and you're one of the
Natural.
best ones. I love yours." And so I was like, "Wow, really? Okay." So I was like, "All right, I guess I'll do some sound baths at the retreat." And so, yeah, I mean, it went well. I've actually like just not that long before the retreat started, Sarah reached out and asked if I wanted to do one at the opening ceremony and at the closing ceremony. So I did my regular sound baths, during the week, and then I also at the opening ceremony, I just did like a welcoming sound bath to just get people in the right, mindset and just set their intentions and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah. Washing off the travel as well.
yeah, yes. I was actually very nervous for that because again, this is like my first public sound bath I've ever done, and it's at like this massive vegan retreat. I'm like, so I was a little nervous, but people gave me a lot of great feedback from it. I actually didn't do the bowls. I have an ocean drum that I used for that opening ceremony, and so I just kind of asked people to imagine being at the edge of the ocean and letting the waves roll over their feet and take away their stress and their emotion, and to understand that
I love
we're all of us here are accepted as we are, and it's safe to be as you are, that sort of stuff. And people loved it. And honestly, it didn't come out it didn't come out in the way that I had planned it, but it came out apparently good for the audience, because so many people came up and said they loved it. So I was happy to hear that, and it gave me a little more confidence doing my sound baths throughout the week. So yeah, I don't know if they'll have me do it again for next year's retreat, but if they want me to, I'm more than happy to.
I hope that you do, especially because I'm planning on coming.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So, um, the other thing, I don't know if you want to talk about this and you can say no, but
Hmm.
we mentioned obviously the food is such a big part, but we talked about it really a lot. And I think for, especially for the women that are listening to my podcast, the message is, nourishing a lot of our emotional parts. And like
Hmm.
I have been doing quite a lot of work to like healing my inner child and actually understanding the disruptive thoughts and behaviors that I grew up with.
Yeah,
And so many of us have, because we grew up with a certain education, a certain example, and we don't really realize that that's shaping us. And we don't all have
hmm,
parents that are emotionally attuned or mature to actually raise children that can be that way too. And I
right.
certainly didn't have those kind of parents. So your child is definitely like, lucky that you're doing all this work.
Thanks.
But you also mentioned many times when we were talking offline how you're reading certain books and you are really doing that inner work to actually change to the core your belief system and who you are, because the indoctrination that we all had was not really conducive to making us the human beings we should be. And I know that
Yeah,
not everybody has that call. I get it. Like a lot of people are just satisfied with the mundane, very earthly pleasures, like going to a party, drinking, smoking, like they don't really care about becoming a better 2.0 version of themselves. I get it.
yeah,
So, and no judgment because everybody has their own journey. And if their soul has to come back, well, tough for you guys. But
yeah,
I think we all are on a journey, whether we realize it or not, however we
yeah.
choose to do
Absolutely.
it. What
Yep.
prompted you to start really looking at things that, maybe you knew you had to change? Because that's a humbling moment, like to look at the mirror and be like, I'm full of shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. Well, I mean, to be honest, I have known for for a long time that there's inner work that I need to do. I mean, especially because I've always, even still, it's way better than it used to be, but anxiety, like social anxiety, has always been, I mean, since I can remember, has been an issue for me. And really, I've realized that it's like a deeper self-worth issue. And there's certain things in my childhood that I can like think of that potentially like created some of that, or at least contributed to it. And so, yeah, I mean, I've just realized like I've felt for a long time that or the anxiety and the social anxiety and the lack of self worth that wasn't always conscious. I know it's more of a subconscious thing, but has really prevented me from being who I know that I can be, and being able to just freely and safely express who I am. But there's just stuff still within me that I know is blocking that to a large extent. And so, even though I've today, I'm like leaps and bounds more comfortable in who I am and being able to express myself authentically. There's still, as I'm sure you're never gonna probably in this lifetime get where there's no sort of resistance or barriers or like things to work through. But I know there's still a lot that I need to really get in touch with and process and heal and integrate, and then move forward so that so I can really show up in the world how I want to, and that I know that I can. and I really think that hinders my ability to serve people, and and really just be me. And so yeah, that's I've always kind of had that just intuitive knowing that there's things that I got to work on. But me and my partner, my ex, we just separated in like 4 months ago, and so just being in a relationship, especially one that doesn't end up, we're separated. So who's to say what happens in the future? But things just really showed me that I need to work on a lot of things myself that I could have done better. And so that's that's another thing that really catapulted me into looking deeper into the and really I even know that I've done like some inner work, I've never really focused on really trying to understand how it works, and just getting the the teachings of experts in this field. And so yeah, I basically I'm building up my library of books on the subconscious and healing the inner child and healing shame and guilt and resentment and all these things, so that I can have a more holistic inner emotional life, and being able to express that out to the world. So yeah, it's for me, but it's also because I see this in everybody, right? Once you start like really diving into this field, you can start to see, not that you're like just analyzing people all the time, but everybody is using coping mechanisms for the traumas in their life. I don't think there's anybody in this world that doesn't have some trauma. I think everybody has trauma in some way, and most people don't recognize that is stored in their body, and it affects their behaviors and the way that they think. And so, if you don't have awareness of that, it's going to control you without you knowing, and you just think that's who you are. But really, you're behaving in a way that's just a coping mechanism to your trauma. And so I'm starting to learn more about how to work through that and integrate it into yourself, and so that you can move forward in a positive way, and learn from it and get more in touch with who you are as a person. And again, to me, it's all about authentic expression. I think that's what we're here to do. That's why we're on Earth. It's to teach us more about how to authentically express ourselves. And some people, they don't for whatever reason, they're just don't pick up on the signs, or the cues that they have things to work on, and they go through life, just kind of suffering with their coping mechanisms. But if you can become aware of your triggers, that's another thing. Triggers are, people try to avoid their triggers, but if you can learn from your triggers are teachers, and we can learn a lot through just looking at the things that trigger us and figuring out why they trigger us and how we can respond differently to them and what we can learn from them. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn about ourselves, but I'm excited to not only just have my own better experience in life, but also help other people do the same. So it's kind of where I'm at with it. Just I'm diving into the books and the research, and really just trying to get more in tune with my inner emotional life, and working through it. So.
And that's powerful because I think especially for men, that's very hard because men have been taught not to tap into their emotions, right? If you have
Yeah.
emotions, you're not manly. A very
Right.
patriarchal disconnection from a feminine energy that everybody has. It's not, you don't have to be a woman to have feminine energy, and that feminine energy doesn't necessarily mean weak. It's just a very different, is processing, is waiting, is discovering, is being a little bit still, and women have that, of course, the masculine energy, like taking action and being, being present. So that, I think for us women, especially going through the transitions that we're going through in our 40s and beyond, if we had partners, husbands that could do the work you're doing, I think a lot of marriages would be saved.
Mm-hmm.
Because the scene is, men with trauma that haven't worked on them, they project and they
Hmm.
perpetuate their trauma onto their wives or girlfriends. And when there is, even if you are doing the work and you're trying to have the conversation with the other person, if they're not present, that means they're not going to meet you where you are or wanting to even do the work together, the journey together.
Hmm.
And this is where the breakage happens, right? And I think
Hmm.
for you, maybe it was the same situation. No matter who is doing what, but the very point that sometimes one person does the work and the other is not interested.
Hmm. Yeah, that is something that I've really learned is that it definitely takes two people that are willing to really look at themselves and work on themselves. And I'm not saying for my personal relationship, I fully understand that I contributed to why it didn't work. And so yeah, I think when the two people, I think for a lasting relationship, I really think it takes two people that are willing to work on themselves, and be fully honest with themselves about their the issues that they need to work through. Emotional maturity is a huge one. Mutual respect, communication. Just emotional safety to be able to communicate. And so creating an emotionally safe environment for authentic communication is an acceptance, and just yeah, just it just yeah, those are some of the main things that I've just realized are so important for a healthy relationship that lasts a long
Hmm.
time.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to just summarize what we talked about because I know you have to go, you actually have to go to work.
I do.
And so I'm going to summarize. If I forget anything, just let me know. For those on YouTube, you can see your cat's tail in the screen.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So we talked about your journey with the raw diet and the fact that you started on raw for health and you were pretty much high raw for a very long time, the flexibility that it took to start implementing more cooked food to accommodate a different life at home now with a child, the importance of not being dogmatic so that more people can actually eat better. And we always
Hmm.
promote a high raw intake. So together with whatever people feel called to obviously eat in terms of plants, not being stuck, and also looking at examples of longevity coming from people that have done it in a way that is very plant-based and sometimes not plant-based, but attuning also to other aspects of life outside the food. Food is not everything, it's medicine, but it's not the full picture. And actually attuning also to different things that are important, such as community, feeling welcome, feeling understood, feeling part of something bigger than ourselves, and also just really sharing things that are in common with other people that we are surrounding ourselves with, and then the importance of doing the self inner work so that we can also project that inner work onto other people, choosing the people in our life in a different way, and to have solid relationships, hopefully having people that acknowledge their part in any relationship and be accountable, but also trying to work together, and that also starts with us. And I think the full picture of this is going to be, obviously, the outcome is always, it might not ever be perfect, but it might actually be a beautiful journey forward. And I think, really true to your name, following our intuition and the raw intuition. So, really, that feeling that is visceral, would be a good place to start instead of muting it to accommodate what society, what the world, or other people around us want us to be instead of being ourselves. Does that sum it up correctly for you?
That was a beautiful summary. Yeah, couldn't have been better. Absolutely. It's a holistic adventure that we're all on. That really giving attention to all these things in diet, lifestyle, mindset, emotions. All that is really, I think, the key. Like you said, passion and purpose. It's just they all add such important layer to our experience in life, and so the more you can give attention to all the layers, I think the more fulfilling this journey is going to be for all of us.
Lovely. So you still have your work that is available. Actually, now people can even buy the books on Amazon, physical books. So that's amazing, not just the
Yep.
e-versions for those of us who like to actually hold the book. And I will put all your details in the show notes. I really hope that as you progress with Raw Intuition, you come back online a lot more, you start coaching more people, and that you can find the next journey, next chapter to be all about this work that you should be doing, really.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's always a pleasure connecting with you, Chantel, and yeah, look forward to doing it again, soon.
Yeah, big kiss. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. As always, amazing to have you here. I really appreciate you for being on the podcast. So guys, if you want to know more about Matt and how to work with him and how to buy his books, then I suggest going into the show notes and clicking on the links, getting to know him. He's wonderful. Follow his YouTube channel and try to support him to come back to making more and more content as he used to, because he's wonderful. He's one of those human beings that just lights up the world. All right, I will see you next week on the show, and thank you so much for following the Wellness Woman. And as always, if you can put a little review or share the episodes with your friends, I will infinitely be happy and grateful. Thank you. Bye.